Welcome to Law Society Younger Members Committee Career Information Session number 6. Hannah Shaw talks to Michael Benson about managing job search and dealing with recruiters.
Everyone to what we're hoping will be a very useful and productive information session on dealing with recruiters and managing your job search. My name is Hannah Shaw and I'm a member of the Younger Members Committee of the Law Society of Ireland. I'm also a Dispute Resolution Associate in A&L Good Body, and I'm joined this evening by Michael Benson, who is the lead recruiter and CEO of Michael Benson and Benson Associates, excuse me, Michael, who are a specialist legal recruitment firm based in Dublin. We're very happy to have you here, Michael. Thanks very much for joining us. I thought you might begin by just letting us know a little about yourself.
Sure. I suppose I should start sharing the screen just to show us what we're dealing with. My name is Michael Benson. I've been recruiting solicitors for the last almost 25 years. I trained in Dublin and worked for a time with A&L Good Body, and then went to London and primarily dealing with litigation matters, starting off dealing with landlord and tenant disputes and ending up dealing with a lot of insolvency work. So I worked in the city for 10 years. And then I set up Benson Associates back in 1996. We're a small firm, but perfectly formed. And we've always been niche, but we were also the first dedicated legal recruitment consultancy to set up in Ireland. We specialize in recruiting practitioners only. We don't tend to deal with support staff, but we occasionally recruit paralegals for some of the larger firms. I'm a solicitor myself, and I practiced for, as I say, 10 years, but it gives me a little bit, hopefully my background gives me more than a little bit of knowledge about practice, but also having performed a career change into legal recruitment myself, I'm very conscious of the pitfalls which you can be led into occasionally with your career, and the things that you should look to avoid, but also particular ways in which you can promote yourself and your career. One of the things the main thing I'd like to deal with this evening, as we can see on the slide, is managing your job search and how to deal with recruiters. We have living again in very difficult times. This is the second recession which my business has been involved in, and obviously there's been a considerable slowdown, and the prospects for more junior solicitors on the recruitment front, I'm afraid to say, are not particularly good, certainly in my view, for the next 6 months. But hopefully that I'll be able to give you some pointers as to how best to present yourself, both in person, although it'll be largely on Zoom or indeed on Teams, to your prospective employers. And maybe I could just take you through a couple of, go to our next slide, and I can show you where we got. All right, the options, private practice or in-house. For more junior solicitors, I would always advise practitioners not to move into an in-house role too early, unless it's a substantial in-house legal practice, unless there's a sufficiently large number of solicitors with enough senior people who are going to help you along in your career. I think it's very important that there's a collegiate atmosphere in an in-house environment, and you can pick up bad habits if you move into in-house too early, in my view. And if you do move into an in-house role that you're not happy with, it has in the past been more difficult to move back into private practice. However, the in-house may well suit your personality. If you're not happy with the structure of a law firm practice, whereby we're still dealing with quite a hierarchical system, where we have the rocky road or the greasy pole to partnership, and like it or not, that still involves a certain amount of politics, but it also involves a hell of a lot of hard work and commitment. Also, some people may be particularly good at doing work, but not necessarily particularly good at glad handing people. And if you are looking at becoming a partner in the long term, it's important that you're able to that you're alive to the marketing possibilities. In order to make partnership, it's not just enough to be a good technical lawyer. You really have to have the ability, in my opinion and in my experience, to get on with clients, to be able to promote the firm, and to bring in new work. Perhaps less important in the larger firm, but certainly in medium-sized firms and in smaller or boutique practices, that's what you need to be able to do that. And lawyers who are good salespeople and good technical people are few and far between. Small, medium, or large practices, and that really depends on your outlook and personality. Some people prefer to work in a small practice with people that they know, people that they get on with personally. Others relish the challenge of working in a big practice with substantial clients, but dealing with heavyweight work, big litigation cases, or large corporate deals, or significant banking transactions, which you are unlikely to be afforded the opportunity for in the smaller practice. And if there is a big client in a small practice, it's likely to be in one practice area only.
Do you mind if I ask you a question there? Apologies for interrupting you.
No, please do.
Fair to say that more junior solicitors in smaller practices do get more responsibility on their files.
Yes.
Maybe due to the fact that there isn't, there just isn't the same amount of resource to allocate to any different matter. So is that something for junior solicitors to consider when they're moving up or down, that there will be a diminishment or an increase in your responsibility accordingly?
Yeah, I think that's a very important thing. It's also tied in with whether if you're particularly interested in the one practice area, then perhaps the medium to large firm is what you should look for, because they will have dedicated expertise there. And generally speaking, in smaller practices, you're more of a GP, so you may do a mixture of conveyancing, litigation, and probate. Or typically in a smaller practice, although I'd like to make it clear that this is not exclusively the case. Typically in smaller practices, it tends to be the family law, general civil litigation, occasionally a bit of crime or fraud work, residential conveyancing, and you will be exposed to a bigger spread of work, but less likely to have the opportunity to specialize. And bringing up that point is very important. If you want to specialize, it depends in what practice area if you want to be a banking lawyer, for example, you're much more likely to want to work in a large or a mid-tier practice. If you're happy to be a general practitioner, then the smaller practices are would be more suitable for you. You're not going to get the opportunity in the large medium-sized practices to be a GP.
Thanks, Michael. And I just had one other quick question. When you say, and I appreciate you're speaking in generic terms, that you shouldn't move too soon, or you wouldn't encourage younger solicitors to move too soon in-house, or to a smaller in-house practice where they won't have the same maybe support or training. How soon is too soon? In very generic terms, what kind of bracket of qualification are you looking at, or that would you recommend people stay in private practice for?
I think you need 3 years under your belt before you look to move in-house. But let's say, for example, that you've got a very good training in IT, or you've a particularly good, strong training in commercial property. Then, if you're happy that that's the area that you want to continue to specialize in, and there's a good opportunity in-house, then you should go for it, provided that you're aware that the options of moving back into practice are probably only going to be in that particular area. Does that answer
that answers that question? Thank you, Michael.
Okay. The in-house area, compared to London, for example, working in-house, it doesn't afford as many opportunities as over here as the opportunities in London, or indeed working abroad. For more senior people, it's quite interesting to note that if an opportunity for a senior in-house lawyer comes up in Dublin, you'd be surprised at how many partners and law firms actually end up applying for it if it's particularly interesting. Those what they term maybe sexy jobs, working for Go Ahead, working for Google, working for Facebook, and so forth. Those opportunities tend to be oversubscribed by partners looking to move across. The partners who are looking to move, I'll just talk briefly about it, are generally going to do so because they're a little bit jaded with the politics of private practice, or they want more certainty with their income, or they're attracted by the particular business that they have the opportunity to work with. If you're looking, however, at more junior roles, the banks are always going to be interested in you. The insurance companies are going to be who have got good teams are going to be attracted, and also in particular in the funds arena, there are always opportunities for more junior solicitors. But generally speaking, they're going to want you to have 1 or 2 years under your belt in that particular area. So if you've been working for a smaller firm and done a broad mix of work, you're probably less attractive to them than somebody who's worked in the larger firms. Now, I personally think they should be far more open-minded about it, but if they're looking for dedicated expertise and someone who can hit the ground running, I suppose you can't blame them for looking for somebody who has good solid experience in the one particular area. But you're not like when you're moving in-house, I think the most important thing is to remember that you're not likely to be you're not going to be as a junior solicitor dealing with a varied workload. As a senior lawyer, yes, you would be expected to be able, the drafting is most important. So you could be a commercial property practitioner and be expected to deal with general commercial contracts, deal with employment law, occasionally deal with tax issues and so forth. So there is an opportunity in-house when you're more senior to do more GP type work, but as a junior, it's not available. Sorry to be a bit long-winded about it, but that is an important point to get across.
No, it's very interesting. Thanks, Michael.
Maybe I could talk just a little bit about what how much time do we have, Hannah?
We have about 10 minutes left, I think.
About 10 minutes of it.
6 to 10 minutes, however long you want to take. So I suppose maybe we could have a look at what the market looks like now. I mean, I think it's important to acknowledge, and you have acknowledged, Michael, that the market isn't the best it's ever been at the moment, and that some areas have dried up. And I know that younger members will be, struggling if they're looking for something new at the moment. So you might talk about what areas are in demand, where you do see maybe growth opportunities over the next 6 months. And if there is anything newly qualified or more junior solicitors can do at the moment, or where they should be looking.
Yes, right. I understand. I think as my slide come up there with the practice areas, there's still demand. The difficulty is that a lot of the firms have shut up shop as far as recruitment is concerned due to COVID. And the most recent move to level 5 hasn't helped us in any way. There's a lot of litigation going on, and so the commercial litigation market is buoyant. The issue that the law firms have is that they're doing the work, but a bit like the last recession, they may not be getting paid for it. Larger firms will be expected to do work on tick and to bill later, and the same is happening with the smaller and mid-tier firms. They're very busy in litigation. They're very busy, and surprisingly, a number of my clients are very busy in corporate and commercial work, but they're very conscious of finance, and because of the uncertainty due to COVID, it's really messing up their projections. And for that reason, they're becoming very conservative in their recruitment policy. I'm sorry to say this, but if you have a very good CV and you've got particular expertise and you're thinking about a move, then law firms will look at you, but they are unlikely to make any commitment. And I think you're better off staying put with the devil at the moment until there's more certainty around that. And that's against the recruiters are probably not going to say that to you, but I'm in business to make sure I get the right fit between the client and the candidate, and I've been doing it for a long term, and I've no interest in putting bums on seats. So, understandably, in the last 25 years, the corporate and commercial banking and financial services and funds have been the areas that are most in demand, and they sell themselves from a recruiter's point of view. And indeed, a lot of movement in those areas takes place by word of mouth rather than recruiters being involved all the time. Defence insurance litigation, however, is a little bit different. I've been doing a lot of work in that space over the last couple of years, and there's been a significant influx of UK firms coming in, and there is demand for good people at that in those areas to do a lot of substantial work. And because insurers are footing the bill, the law firms are less concerned about their own costs because they've got guaranteed work coming in at a particular fee. So and the type of work they're doing is not going to go away. So it's not as much market dependent. I think, given the fact that that the market is so tight, and also that in a number of firms, salaries have been reduced by 10 up to 20% and frozen for the foreseeable future. Frozen for the short term of 3 to 6 months. And if you're in a position where you are in a practice but you might not be happy, my advice is to stay where you are until there's more certainty, and don't jump unless you've got something to go to. If you're in a situation where you definitely want to move, then there are a number of ways in which you can start your job search. But I think it's probably most important to recognize at the outset that, from my point of view as a recruiter, we're not aware of all the jobs that are out there. There's a very substantial hidden job market out there, which I reckon is maybe 70% of the position. The truth be told, law firms would rather avoid paying a recruitment consultant a fee, and they would much rather that their HR departments find the source of the people for them. But they're also conscious of the fact that they're competing with other firms, and if you go to a good recruiter, he or she should be able to point you in the direction of the right firm. Should be able to not only point you in the right direction of the right firm, but should also be able to give you a choice, and should also know about the ethos of the firm and the personalities involved. Now, obviously, we can't know about everybody, but we know about the situations that you should probably avoid, particularly as a younger solicitor. In this type of marketplace, by all means, find out from recruiters what positions are available. You should also look at LinkedIn, because that's a tool that's been used more and more by clients. I have mixed feelings about LinkedIn. I think that it means that anybody can call themselves a recruiter because they have a database that they can access very, very easily, and not necessarily have the skills or the experience.
Yeah, I have to say I agree with you there, Michael. The only recruiters who I find contacting me on LinkedIn, I mean, they're usually offering me a paralegal role. Like, they don't understand the difference. It's like they've copied and pasted lawyer into their search engine, and I'm what came up, and they're just throwing paint at the wall to see if it sticks.
Yeah, exactly. And paint is a nice analogy. What LinkedIn is doing, and very cleverly, in my opinion, is setting itself up as being the Google of recruitment. And they're managing to do it without having to pay anything for it, because they're getting everybody's CVs online. So be circumspect with LinkedIn, be circumspect with recruiters, especially. The most important thing to recognize when you're using a recruiter is that they are going to represent you. And if they're going to represent you effectively, they need to have your trust, and you need to have their trust. And unfortunately, with COVID, we can't meet person to person. I think that's very important, particularly in our profession. A lot of what it has to do with presenting yourself has got to do with how you meet and greet people, and how you interact with them on a personal basis. And that's a skill that some people have naturally, and some people have to learn. And that's very important. It's very important to practice interview technique, which is outside the scope of this particular seminar. But with friends and colleagues, that's something we can talk about at another stage. But the duplication of effort is something I come up a lot against. So if you're a younger solicitor, you might think that it's a good idea just to throw out your CV to half a dozen agencies and see what they've got. The fact of the matter is that there's a finite number of positions that need to be filled at any one time. And if 6 recruiters all sending out your CV to the same employer, that doesn't look good from your point of view. And also, you're probably not being straight with the recruiter in terms of what you've told them about who you've applied to and so on. You must keep, if you're making applications direct, you must keep a note of the firms that you've approached, and be able to tell a recruiter that you have already approached those firms. Because if a recruiter sends your CV in, if the firm's HR consultant is doing his or her job, they're going to say, "Sorry, Mr. Recruiter, we've already got that CV direct from the candidate," and that doesn't help your perception with them at all. So that's and it also wastes their time and that of the recruiter. There's a very important part of the job search that people forget about, and this goes back to my 70-30% ratio for the hidden job market. You need to network with your friends and your colleagues to find out about the marketplace, and I think probably most of you do at this point in time, particularly, but it's usually in terms of finding out what salaries that people are on and what the particular benefits may be. But if you're in a position that you're going to be let go or have been let go or are concerned about what's going to happen over the next 6 months, speak to people who are working in other law firms and try and get an idea about the marketplace yourselves. But if you haven't got, if you're in a position that you're now looking for a new job, you need to go out and make a list of people that you know, and go out and meet people who are already working as solicitors, but go out and meet more senior people who are working not just as solicitors, but are in senior management in the type of companies or firms that are going to need legal advice on a regular basis. Find out how who they use, and find out what type of attributes that these clients are looking for in a solicitor. Never ask them directly if they have a job for you, because once you ask somebody that question, they get that feeling in the pit of their stomach, saying, "Oh, I have to give John a job because he knows Mary," and so forth. And because Ireland is so small, everybody knows everyone, and they feel under a compliment then, and they're less likely. They're more likely to be like a rabbit stuck in the headlights, because they'd like to be able to help you out, but they don't have anything for you, or for another reason. So when you're meeting people to network with, be very diligent about how you keep your notes. You meet them for coffee and you ask them, do they know of anybody who might be able to assist you in your job search? Not necessarily now, but at some stage in the future.
I suppose, Michael, do you think that that's still something people should push to do? Maybe over Zoom, like offer to have a virtual coffee with somebody over a Zoom call. Can that still be done? It probably just takes a little bit more being direct, I suppose, and asking the question outright, and then having maybe a slightly more awkward call over Zoom. But does it still get the job done, do you think?
I think that trying to meet people personally is the best way to do, but the only option now is to Zoom it or to do Team or perhaps something else. The also issue is that the people who are going to be in a position to make a decision to give you a job or to point you in the right direction because they've got plenty of experience are likely to be less Zoom or team friendly because of their they're not as technologically advanced or used to it as younger members might be. But I think but maybe at the same time they're happy to try the new technology as well. It's just important not to ask somebody for a job because you just have to be a little bit subtle about that.
Sure. Michael, we're close to running out of time. I wonder if you have any final kind of top tips for managing the job search at the moment for us, just before we go.
Yeah, very briefly, spend a lot of very important to spend a lot of time on your CV preparation. That's absolutely key. But do not send out your CVs on a blanket basis. If, for example, you prepared your CV and there are about 10 law firms you want to work for, do not send your CV straight out to those 10 law firms. You've got to find out if you know somebody in that firm, not necessarily in HR, who is going to be able to get you to a decision maker. Find out who the decision maker is in the firm and make an approach that way. They will invariably send you to HR, but if you have a recommendation that from somebody who is at partner level that you really should see this person, then you will at least get a meeting, and you won't get the rejection shock that you're likely to get if you blanket bomb law firms with CVs. So the CV preparation is absolutely key. And that's where I was talking about making the direct approaches. If you're going to make a direct approach, do your research. Make sure you've got the right person. And if you're looking for a job in a particular practice area, make sure it's the person in there who's doing that work as well. We've talked about LinkedIn. I remain unconvinced by Twitter as being an effective tool for recruiters. Facebook can work sometimes, but unfortunately it's our friends again, LinkedIn, who are probably the most likely to have the interesting jobs. If I've run out of time, that's probably as much as I can say at the moment, Hannah.
All right, well, look, that leaves me to thank you very much, Michael, indeed, for your time this evening. It was a very interesting talk, and time flies when you're having fun, so unfortunately we've run out. But again, thank you very much for your time. It was very helpful, and hopefully the younger members on the call found it useful. So
if they have any questions or queries, if they want to get in touch with Keith, I'd be delighted to help them out. I appreciate you having a lot of time. Okay, thanks, Hannah.
Thanks, everyone. I'll end the information session now.